Welcome, everybody. My name's Jon Clay, VP of Threat Intelligence at Trend Micro, and welcome to our episode 17 of Trend Talks BizSec. Joining me today is Ed Cabrera, Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Trend Micro. Ed, how you doing today?
Doing great, doing great.
Good. And folks, we're going to talk today about something that Ed and I had an opportunity to support. We're part of the Cyber Tech Accord, and we've done work in the past. We actually had one of our researchers, Feike Hakkabord, on talking about cyber mercenaries. And this topic came up. I brought it up in the Cyber Tech Accord a number of months ago. And we decided that we needed to come up with some principles on dealing with cyber mercenaries out there in the world. So we joined Ed and I joined a group of people from Microsoft, Meta, and Cisco to craft a set of principles on how the world can help deal with cyber mercenaries. And so today we're going to talk about each of those principles and what the different aspects of them and how we can as a world help deal with cyber mercenaries. What do you think, Ed?
No, I think that's perfect. I think it was a great pleasure being a part of developing these principles and getting the word out.
Exactly. So if you go to the Cyber Tech Accord website, you can see a blog on that, or I just published a blog on the Trend Micro blog about cyber mercenaries, so you can take a look at that. But Ed, let's jump into the principles here. The first principle is counter cyber mercenaries' use of products and services to harm people. And I know when we first started discussing these principles, you made a comment about we really have to be very particular about the definition and who the victims are. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the challenge here, right, when we say cyber mercenaries, um, we're talking, there's a lot of gray area for to create this definition. And I think there is a lot of good work that is done by government contractors working alongside in government, doing good things and protecting us all. So I was very concerned. I wanted to create a very narrow definition to the extent of who are we trying to protect, and we needed to get that definition out there. And I think the one thing is very important. It is the creation of these tools and or services targeting and or violating the human rights of groups or individuals, right? So it's really
Right.
the impact that I wanted to make sure we included in the definition, because we don't want to sort of group a lot of good work into this area of a mercenary definition.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, like in Void Ballure, when we looked at their activities, they targeted journalists, they targeted politicians, they targeted a lot of innocent people, and that's where I think we want to make that definition right. It's innocents or non-combatants that get caught up a lot of times. So obviously with the war in Ukraine from Russia, they're doing a lot of cyber espionage against Ukrainian people, but you get caught up with non-combatants getting hit with a lot of this stuff as well. So I think that definition definitely had to be pretty narrow. We talk about in this principle, including conducting human rights due diligence, identifying risks stemming from possible misuse of technology, taking lawful action against cyber mercenaries. So it's definitely going to be a public-private partnership type of model, right?
Yeah, no, I think the big thing here when you're talking about um, the first thing or first step to counter cyber mercenaries is to do a better job of identification, and that only comes through collaboration and partnership with private industry, right? Because to solely it's sort of this holistic view of a particular group and their motivation and their intended targets that has to be developed so you can really categorize this group as a cyber mercenary group, right? And the best way to do that is through collaboration and partnership.
Yeah, and the challenge we have is a lot of times these groups or organizations aren't part of a government entity, although they work with one. And we just had a really interesting disclosure about this Vulcan group out of Russia that, right? They were
Yep.
they were supposedly just an IT group, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the Vulcan, now it's being deemed as the Vulcan files leak, right?
Yeah,
Somebody within this company, apparently, and this is allegedly, came forth and leaked these documents of the company. And because they were upset with Russians' involvement in Ukraine and
right.
so forth, at least that's what has been disclosed to the media groups, the journalists, and so forth behind the story. And so, but what's interesting is that they identify themselves as an IT company and cybersecurity company services that they deliver apparently legitimately. So this is
Right.
the other challenge now, right? When we're talking about how do we identify a group? By its definition, and it goes into great length of their activity, the tools that they've used, the campaigns, and the attacks that they're apparently a part of. And so this is the gray area. This actually
Yeah.
is the perfect example of the gray area. On the face of it, without this leaked documents, this company would look like a regular government contractor. And now we find out that they have done all of this offensive work for Russia. So yeah, it's a perfect example of the challenges going forward.
Well, and and principle one is countering their use of these products and services. So obviously, if we identify this Vulcan group, then maybe some sanctions or something can be done to get them off the table. But obviously, as a security firm, what we look to do is we want to get all of the IOCs that group has developed and be able to put the counteractions against those, right? So that's where I think you also, if we can get their tools that they utilize in their activities and get those detected and blocked, then we're doing our effort to counter that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're doing the threat intelligence work, identifying the indicators of attack behavior,
Yeah,
that we're actually putting the story together, but also primarily to protect our customers. So this is just a natural output of our threat intelligence gathering and analysis and the protection of our customers. So it's a good fit for us to then plug in as information becomes developed on the motives and the individuals that they're targeting, right? And so
yeah,
this is the one way for us in our industry to do our part to counter these
yeah,
types of
yeah.
groups.
Exactly. So principle two is identify ways to actively counter the cyber mercenary market. So this is like ensuring compliance with legal restrictions aimed at the cyber mercenary market, promote wider compliance with international human rights standards and laws designed to prevent human rights abuses, advocate coordinated governance frameworks, policy guidelines, regulations to limit export and import of investments in IT used by cyber mercenaries. So let's talk a little bit more about the marketplace, right? Not so
Yeah.
much the products and services themselves, but really the market that's out there. And obviously we know there's a market out there, as well, otherwise we wouldn't have seen this leak about the Vulcan and we wouldn't see the Void Ballures of the world, right, Ed?
Absolutely. So, and one perfect example of that is the exploit market, right? We
Yeah,
already know that you have bug bounty programs such as ours, Zero Day Initiative, and others that operate for the purpose of doing the right thing, right? Identifying vulnerabilities, doing proper disclosure to improve writ large, software that we all use, right? Software and
right,
operating systems. Now you have the exploit market, the dark side, so to speak, that is really, um, you know, countries paying for those exploits for offensive operations, right? And so this is the other area where possibly there's, opportunities for us to have an impact on that dark market, meaning as much as trying to make the legitimate market much more lucrative and better,
right.
for researchers, right? And so that they don't get, lured into, obviously identifying exploits and then selling it to governments. So, it is not an easy thing, and it's very hard to actually do, but because there's a lot of different levers when you say market. What can you do to affect that market? One of them is definitely on the bug bounty side.
Well, and I also think more law enforcement action against some of these groups or the
Yep.
individuals within those groups, because if they are doing crimes, because for example, they're stealing data from journalists or they're doing misinformation campaigns or something, maybe start looking at, can we get some law enforcement active? And that's where the collaboration needs to
Yep.
happen across the world. And that's why, again, these principles are for the world, not just for the US. It's a worldwide, because these groups are all over the world and can be in any different place. So for sure, I think that's definitely an area that we can look to help and improve things on.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think when you're looking at identifying these groups, then applying law enforcement and prosecutorial levers, right, to go after them is key. But unfortunately, that does take time. So we have to look at other systemic parts of that market and seeing how we can sort of counter that market in different ways.
Well, an interesting thing that just occurred as well this last week when we announced these principles, the Biden administration came out with a new executive order that basically said prohibited U.S. government from using commercial spyware products. So, I mean, if nation states start adopting these types of principles, then also that may dry up the market, because again, the market for these cyber mercenaries in a lot of cases is the nation states who are buying the data from them and utilizing, paying for their goods and services. So we'll see
Yep.
how that shapes up and changes things. So number 3, Ed, is improve cybersecurity awareness among customers, users, and the general public. And this is right into our wheelhouse, I think, as Trend Micro, because we publish information about cyber mercenary groups. We did it on Void Ballure not too long ago. We'll continue to do it on any cyber mercenary groups, but also we also publish, obviously, the IOCs, the IOAs that are associated with these groups as well.
No, I mean, that's the one thing we're constantly putting out additional information, right, regarding these groups and the research behind it. As you mentioned, Void Ballure, and our continuous monitoring of these types of groups and other, obviously, cyber threat actors.
Yeah.
It's key, but it's that keeping that communication, part alive, right? Similar to the public-private partnerships around threat intelligence and information sharing, this is in line, right? This is an element of threat intelligence and vulnerability intelligence information sharing that is critical, because it's just that the unique difference of the groups behind it, right? But this
Yeah.
is the kind of stuff that this is our bread and butter for sure.
Yeah, and just what we're doing right now, we're talking about cyber mercenaries. So the more we can talk about it and bring it up and educate the population about it, the more exposure to these folks. They don't like exposure. So the more exposure you can give them, the more likely they may go away. So number 4 is protect users by maintaining the integrity and security of products and services. So produce tools to detect cyber mercenary behavior, stuff we do all the time. Promote strong encryption to increase protection of products and service. Never knowingly weaken the security of customers, and also notify users whose accounts are being targeted by cyber mercenaries. So this is an area, I think, a couple things. One, at Trend Micro, like we will never put backdoors, even if we're asked by a government agency or somebody in our products. So that's we take that off the table. We obviously, whenever we do find customers or victims, we try to and we alert them and give them information about it. And so I think this is an area that anybody in this industry who understands or identifies a cyber mercenary group can help in their customers and the victims in this area, right?
No, I absolutely. So I think the other things that we do and promote is obviously, as we mentioned, the 0-day initiative is our bug bounty program. So really focus on obviously the efficacy of all of our applications and programs, but more so about the integrity, right, and the security of our products. So for us, getting this information, obviously, be it from ZDI threat researchers or others that bring us information about possible 0-day vulnerabilities, we act quickly to make sure that our products is then patched and ready to work and ready to be able to protect our customers. So we're doing this constant evaluation of our products for the security and integrity of them. So it's one of those things that's part and parcel of what we do and what we have to do.
Well, and the fact that we pay out bounties for Trend
Yep.
Micro product bugs, and we're one of the top groups that get bugs submitted for. So it's a great opportunity for us to improve our products as well, besides the stuff we do internally to find these bugs on a regular basis. So the last principle, Ed, let's talk about is develop processes for handling valid legal requests for information. And this is one that I think was a little bit of a struggle for us, because there really isn't any processes today in place that say a victim can do or an organization can do. So that word develop in the first word in the sentences, I think, is going to be critical. This is where we all have to come together and figure out what is the process, how does it work, and then also obviously we have to engage nation state and governments, because they're going to be a big part of this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most companies, and definitely all public companies, have already processes in place to handle legal um, um, action,
Yeah.
be it civil or criminal, subpoenas, search warrants, and so forth, and to comply with all of those. Here is a unique thing is like if the process that has to be developed has to be akin or part and parcel to that process is if victims want additional information, want to notify us of them being victims, possibly, through, our products, and or if our products are not stopping these individuals or whatever the case may be, we need a process to be able to engage that. So it's wide ranging, but it's definitely something that, I think it is a pivot, but I think it can be done.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge are for those independent folks. So, like independent journalists who are targeted,
Yep.
maybe some politicians and some of not the national politicians, but maybe some state and local politicians who get targeted. They may have struggled a little bit, but this is where, we can all try to come together and figure out a good process. So, those are the 5 principles that we came up with, and again, co-authored this guiding principle document that you can find on the Cyber Tech Accord website. We'd love to have everybody support that. And if you're an organization that you feel strongly about this, certainly, go to that, maybe even join the Cyber Tech Accord with us. And we all try to promote, a better world out there, and support the non-combatants and the innocent people out there. Ed, great discussion today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was great, and it was great work with the Cyber Peace Accord.
Yeah, yeah, very good. So everybody, thanks for joining us on episode 17 of Trend Talks BizSec. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about another topic. Ed, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.